Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all this morning. Welcome. I'm the Reverend Carol Badeau, and I am privileged to serve here at Westside as minister. We are happy to have you all here this morning. If you're here for the first time or the second or maybe the third, we're particularly glad to see you. You can always find out more about our congregation by signing up for our newsletter and checking out our website regularly. Westside is a place where we welcome new ideas, where we welcome diversity, where we welcome many voices and many perspectives. We're glad to have you here this morning. There's a lot going on. So, in your order of service, if you happen to have that, or for those of you watching us virtually, welcome. These announcements should be coming past you on your screen. We have a lot of things happening. The Welcoming Congregation Renewal team, which is our team that does LGBTQ plus advocacy work, they are looking for fresh faces and more people who want to participate in that. And on that note, let me just correct myself. I want to make sure that I say this every service. My pronouns are she and her. And we make a point of trying to use our pronouns just to be supportive and to be clear about our advocacy for the LGBTQ plus community. So if you are interested in participating in that team, please let the office or me know, and we would be glad to have your help with that. We have some adult religious exploration courses that continue. Those happen on Wednesday and Thursday evenings. The Wednesday evening one, it was originally called Christian Roots Growing Branches. I will tell you that it has expanded way beyond Christianity, but it is mostly a theologically focused conversation group. We talk about all sorts of different theologies and perspectives. The Thursday evening conversation is very widely ranging. It covers all sorts of topics, and anyone is welcome to attend any of those. People are also welcome to attend our second Monday lunches. The next one is meeting tomorrow, the 14th, at Bravo Italian Kitchen. So if you happen to be planning to attend that, it's helpful to let Judy Burgett or Diane Gray. Judy and Diane, can you raise your hands if you're here? They just like to know how many people are showing up. A really important announcement is that our Family Promise program week is coming up February 27th to March 3rd. Now, we are not yet hosting families in our building, but we are providing meals and support for them at the day center where they're staying. So there's actually a QR code in your order of service, or you can check that out online to sign up to help provide meals for that. And a few events that are coming up, exciting events that are coming up. On March 19th, the Endowment team is having a kickoff party for the Endowment to support our endowment, and on the 23rd of April, we've got a Canvas kickoff party planned. Also, in the fall, we are, in fact, going to have our annual retreat at Pickett State Park. Now, I will tell you, the cabins are already going fast. We have reserved the bunkhouse and the main lodge and the group area. This is a really fun event. And I already know that a whole bunch of people are planning on attending this year. It's scheduled for November 11th through November 13th. If you want to try to get a private cabin for that event at Pickett, do it right away, because I don't know that there are any left. Check. And we also have, for those of you who are more interested in camping and less in the cabins, August 5th through August 8th, there's going to be an outdoor camping wilderness retreat that I'll be leading called Spirit Quest, for those of you who are interested in that experience. So, and last but not least, Bridget Ross is going to explain the yoga class that's going to be coming up soon.
Hello everyone, I'm Bridget Ross, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I've been going to church here for a year and a half now, I think. And I've been in yoga teacher training since August of last year. And as our final project, they want us to connect with a local organization. And I chose Westside because when I first started yoga, which was a long time ago, I was like, man, I would love to have a church that was like yoga, that you could come in and feel loved and feel accepted. So now I finally found a church that you can just come in, feel loved, feel accepted, and you're good enough just the way you are, which is so important. So I wanted to share yoga because it's like both loves with you guys. So I'm going to have a free 4-week yoga where each week we'll have a yoga class here at the church, but I don't know what days to do it on yet. So if you guys could email me or email Reverend Carol, and apparently I'm a little nervous because my voice is shaky. Usually I'm not nervous in front of people. Anyway, if you could email us and just tell me who's interested and like what days would be good for you guys, but we'll have it like right here in the sanctuary. And more than likely it'll be chair yoga so that everyone will feel like nobody's, like, I don't want to leave anybody out. So we're going to do chair yoga more than likely so that it'll be more comfortable for everyone. And if you've never done that, then hey, that's something different too. And I guess that's all. Thank you.
So yeah, if you're interested in the yoga, just if you don't have Bridget's email, some of you who have been around a little bit longer have Bridget's email. If you don't, my email address is available. I'm going to begin by inviting the bowl to sound now before we light our chalice. I'd like y'all to just take a deep breath through those masks. Take a deep breath. Feel your body in your chair. Come into this moment, letting go of everything that happened before this, letting go of what might come next, because we never really know. As the bowl sounds, I invite you to just center deep into yourself. Chris Edkins is going to light our chalice this morning, and David and I are going to share the words. The words for our chalice lighting this morning come from the Judeo-Christian tradition from 1 Corinthians 13. Love. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal.
And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing.
If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body to be burned but do not have love, I gain nothing.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth.
It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Prophecies will come to an end, tongues will cease, knowledge will come to an end. We know in part, we prophesy in part, but when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end.
When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child.
When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. Now we see in a mirror, in a riddle.
Then we will see face to face. Now I know in part, then I will know fully.
Now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. Well, those are big words for Valentine's Day weekend, aren't they? Today we're talking about soulmates and love and all sorts of things. The hype around Valentine's Day puts an awful lot of pressure on us around this concept of love. It tells us love should be all kinds of things, and who knows what love really is, right? I don't know about you, but all that patience and kindness is not necessarily a part of my everyday experience of being in a loving relationship. Sometimes there's struggle. Sometimes there's difficulty. Sometimes there's challenge. So what is it to love and be in relationship? Today, David and I are going to have a little discussion about some concepts related to love and connection and relationship. And in particular, we had a request that we do a service that shared a little bit about Hinduism and reincarnation. So we thought it might be kind of fun to mix those things together for today. So we're talking about reincarnation and how it's understood from a variety of perspectives in different traditions and contexts. In UU communities, some of us practice traditions that take reincarnation, which is to be born again, literally, in another body after death, over and over. Some Unitarian Universalists take that literally, and other people do not. But even then, as David is going to share, when he speaks about his thoughts on this today, these concepts can still have relevance in a philosophical sense, even if we don't take them literally. So I'm going to do a quick little survey of some concepts related to reincarnation in a few different traditions, and we're going to talk about ways that those concepts might have meaning for us. So a little history first. A belief in reincarnation has been central to religions and cultures throughout all of human history. Plato, in fact, who lived 400 years before the Common Era, believed in the transmigration of souls, which means a soul moving from body to body and life to life. Many Eastern religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, include this concept in their teachings. They vary in the details and the logistics of what they believe about that. And different branches of each of those religions might have different ideas about it. This is also true of Judaism, where many branches do not believe in reincarnation, and some of the more mystical branches do. Other traditions from around the world and from different time periods have believed in reincarnation as well. We could talk about Native American communities that have this belief, or other world communities. But just to simplify, today we're just going to talk about a few concepts from Hinduism. Most Eastern religions that believe in reincarnation have a few central doctrines that are related to this core concept. They generally believe in karma, or the law of cause and effect, which carries from one life to another. In Hinduism, the process of being born over and over and over again, being on what is known as the wheel of samsara, continues until one achieves moksha, or release from the process. And at that point, one realizes their Atman, or their core self, as being one with absolute reality. So Hinduism is probably the most prominent traditional world religion that believes literally in a concept of reincarnation. The other set of religious traditions that are contemporary now, that we hear the most about, that hold beliefs in reincarnation, are the set of religions we might loosely refer to as neo-pagan or New Age. These include a huge range of traditions, from Wicca to Druidry to eclectic paganism, Celtic mystery schools, neo-shamanism. This is just a few. There's a huge range of these revival traditions. And these traditions often, not always, but often include some concept of reincarnation. And these concepts are similar to, but not the same as, these more traditional older religions, okay? For those who believe literally in reincarnation, life's choices are affected by a sense that you're not going to get away with that just by dying. That leaving this life doesn't end the lessons you've got to work on. In other words, whatever happens in this life is going to follow you. It's going to follow you. And it's going to have to be worked out. So stuff you don't get done now is going to have to get done sooner or later. It means that who we are today may be deeply influenced by things that happen to us in other bodies, in other times or places, and that people we are with now are probably people we've known before and will probably see again. So that's the general framing of the concepts for those who believe in these concepts literally, but I'd like to ask David, what does that mean for someone who doesn't believe in it literally?
So one of the interesting things here was Carol would introduce it as something that she believed in literally and I believed in only philosophically. As I thought about it, one of the interesting things was how literally I do believe in it. I have been born again and again under my legal name, David Howard Howell, which went on the birth certificate, but all the cells in my body have changed over and over again. It's not just psychologically that I'm reborn, reincarnated, incarnated in a body with new cells over and over again before this legal fiction dies. I'm the one who does believe in it literally. It isn't just psychologically that I get reincarnated, born and born again. It's actually physically. And even more basically than that, as I have grown up, that is, been incarnated again and again in different physical bodies, that is, with different cells, all under the same legal fiction, DNA switches have been turned off and on. And I have changed in that way as well. So I would say, Carol, in many ways, I believe in this very literally. I just don't have to take another body from another place. The body was there and continually in the process of changing. Nothing is more striking to me than the way in which I have, through my 80-odd years now, been reincarnated in a very literal sense, again and again. And each time, I try to think of what I have learned in the lives that I had lived previously in this body, and the way in which I have to struggle with them, and the way in which I learn from them, or the ways in which I don't learn from them. Oftentimes I make the same mistake over and over again, but it's a fierce system if I make the same mistake over and over again. I am simply now forced to learn something from it as a no kind of option is raised for me. So I do believe literally in reincarnation. It just doesn't come from some other body in Asia or Italy or Africa or something like that. It's just this body which is constantly changing. I used to say to my students, what is the same as when you were 5 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old? None of the feelings are left. None of the beliefs are left. None indeed of the cells are left. Instead, be aware of how you are constantly being incarnated under the same legal fiction of the name that went on your birth certificate, and think of the ways in which you endlessly have to deal with this and your struggle to get out of it.
That's fabulous. So don't go anywhere. I have a question for you. Let's talk about samsara. Samsara. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this term, one of the concepts associated with Hinduism and reincarnation is this idea of samsara. It's the cycle of life and death and rebirth and dying again. And now in New Age traditions, this is often considered like a good deal, right? You know, like I get this cool opportunity to rewrite and retry and redo things. But in Hinduism, it's not such a great deal. It's sort of like you're stuck in a human body until you get it right. So, okay, David, I'm curious about your perspective on the cycle, the wheel of samsara.
I can't count the number of times that I went around the same wheel again and again. Those here, most of you who know of the latest stage in my life with Suzanne, now I am going down around a somewhat different wheel. Hopefully have learned something from the ways I did it so badly on the wheel before. I believe very literally in samsara, the way in which one now has to go around the wheel again and try to learn from it and do it differently this time. And if I don't do it differently, if I just make the same mistake over and over again, which I have often done, I will be given another opportunity to see if I can learn it differently this time.
It's all just a matter of scale. All right, so let's talk about karma. For those who believe in karma literally, and I will say that that particular word is unique to Hinduism, gets applied in lots of other places. We use that term rather loosely in modern culture. Karma is a sort of reward and punishment system. One experiences the consequences, either positive or negative, of actions in the past in a current life. So now let's note that the idea of karma has been criticized for indirectly and sometimes directly excusing social inequities, particularly the caste system in India. In general, though, this idea is meant to encourage people to shape up and behave well in this life, to avoid being stuck on that wheel of samsara. In newer traditions, karma is often understood as more like a class syllabus or a school schedule. So we might say, oh, my karma says that I've signed up for another lesson in boundaries. Oh, I'm having life 7 in self-esteem or self-worth. So it's more seen as sort of like a syllabus or the classes you signed up for in any given life. But in more traditional systems, it's seen as if you don't fix the things from the past, you're bound to have to keep coming back to fix them later. So in these traditions, one might see a problem, say, for example, with a spouse as the result of something that happened in a previous incarnation. There are techniques used to help heal such things, like past life regression therapy. So in these traditions, people who hold to any of these various traditions see rooted in the deep past all the causes of our suffering. So, David, on karma.
Yes, I really do take karma literally. I have a nephew who, when he was younger and did a lot of hitchhiking, he would stand by the side of the road with a giant cardboard thumb and a sign that said, "Free karma," for everyone who picked him up. And if you pass someone by, you will come to another hitchhiker, and you will have another opportunity to get good karma as opposed to bad karma. I believe very literally and very deeply in karma. But again, so far, I'm going to add another kind of addition to this at a later appropriate time. In the course of this legal fiction of my single life, the way in which the karma that came from previous relationships, the karma that came from previous kinds of behaviors that I had done and had done badly, and these now shape what I do again. Nothing can be realer than karma, the way in which we are forced to deal with and forced to learn things that happen over and over again. I won't get into too many personal things here, but I do remember times in which the same kind of circumstance arose again. And I had remembered and I had learned about the ways in which I had dealt with it badly before, and now I have another opportunity to do it better this time. And by God or golly or something, I have the opportunity to do it better this time because karma had forced me to deal with the same thing over again. Anyone who believes in the way in which psychologically we are continually shaping ourselves, continually shaping our bodies, continually shaping our minds, has to believe in karma, the way in which the events that happen to us and the way we responded to them go on and now force us. The language of rewards and punishments may be a more specifically religious one, but anyone who is not aware of the way in which they have dealt with things in the past have rewards and punishments and the opportunity for doing the same sort of thing better this time, and the way in which we just do it the same stupid way this time so often, but then we'll be given more opportunities to learn or not learn.
Fabulous. We're going to take a pause in our discussion to give you an opportunity to support Westside. David's going to introduce our offering, and Chris is going to play a little flute music for us while we do that.
Our offering partner is Planned Parenthood, and you know from your handout here where it is and how it is that these things go. Please give as little or as much as you would like to.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Now we're going to get a little closer to Valentine's Day on this subject. So one of the most popular concepts in modern thinking about this idea of reincarnation is the idea of the soulmate. Now there are a couple different definitions of the soulmate. There's the idea of the soulmate who's just like your perfect person. But for people who believe, particularly sort of the New Age or neo-pagan way of thinking about the soulmate, this is a very literal concept. A soulmate is someone that your soul knows from other times. It is someone you may have had many lives with, many different kinds of relationships. With a soulmate or multiple soulmates, you might have been parent and child, or friends, or employer-employee, or siblings. Your soulmate may even have been someone you've done serious harm to in other lives, or been seriously harmed by. Now, the more simple idea of a soulmate just suggests that that a person who's your soulmate is a great romantic partner. The idea of the soulmate in this context is a little bit more complicated. So while we often think, oh, I've met my soulmate, it'll be awesome, it'll be perfect, this isn't how it actually works. Often, I'm sure many of you know that. Many of you have had the experience of having that happen to you. In the concept that's related to reincarnation, look at it this way. People who are your soulmates, if they exist, if you have soulmates that are traveling through time with you, they're not really concerned about your comfort in one sort of short, brief, transient life that's going to just flick past. Instead, they're really concerned about maximum soul growth. So what they really care about is that in each life, you get the optimal amount of soul growth. And unfortunately or fortunately for us as humans in this conception, humans learn best through contrast. We don't learn the most when things are just going along and not much is happening. We tend to learn a lot when there's struggle or when there are things going on that challenge us. So, the more contemporary idea of the soulmate for people who believe in these traditions is that your soulmate is going to push your buttons. What do you think about soulmates, David?
This is the part I was waiting for, in which I could say it isn't just a matter of one individual life as you go through, but something that carries over generations. I threatened to burst into song here, and so I will, from Tin Pan Alley lyrics. I want a girl just like the girl who married dear old dad. How many boys, when they grow up, marry their mother? How many girls, when they grow up, marry their father? Mm-hmm. All those ways in which the models that were given to us, and the model we are given most powerfully, most of us, for what a relationship is supposed to be like is the relationship of our parents. That's the one we know. Talk about samsara, when one has to now relive what one's parents and grandparents and great-grandparents struggled through. And when you think about this, you think about, how might I break this cycle finally? However many generations the sins of the fathers are passed down to those to come. It is all of the difficulties and struggles of generation after generation that have gone on. And when one becomes more aware of this, that you are in many ways, particularly in relationships, the reincarnation of your parents' relationship and their parents' relationship, and so on back, and the way in which you have to deal with this, and think, do I really want a relationship like my parents? Can I think of a way in which I might improve upon this? Can I look at the problems that they gave me and all those things which I inherited through generations, and think about how I might deal with them myself? So it isn't simply and this is what I promised a few minutes ago, it isn't simply the way in which I, the legal fiction of I, changes over the course of my lifetime. All those basic kinds of models and relationships are the most important of these that one learns from the generations before you, and they get repeated again and again until you become aware of what's going on. How literal this is, those kinds of problems that get faced over and over again, because these are the specifically human kind of problems with the particularly specific way in which it is spelled out in your particular family history. And then you look at other possibilities and other models and see if you can come up with a relationship that both presents problems to be solved and opportunities to be won. Perhaps the most striking thing is each time, everybody here has to know what I'm talking about, you fall in love again, and then it turns out to be the same old bleep, to be dealt with again when the original glow wears off, and how you think, is there some way I can break out of this endlessly repeated pattern and somehow do it differently this time to find a new kind of model? Our chalice lighting reading is particularly potent here. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not born of envy. Those kinds of things which we have to watch out for and be able to redo. Yes, I take this all very literally, differently literally than Carol is expressing it, but very kind of literally. This is the stuff of life. And because I am a philosopher, I think that this stuff of life can be thought about and put into words, and then you have it in front of you as a new kind of script that you might write and you might improve upon. But unless it provides new opportunities, you're just doing the same old bleep over again, and that is surely not what we want to do.
So tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and we know that the media has a bit of an endless loop on Valentine's Day. So let's talk for a minute about what we believe about the nature of death and life, whether or not we have a soul. That can have a pretty big effect on what we expect of ourselves, what we expect of other people. Expectations play a big part in this holiday and a big part in the idea of love and relationship. As David, as you're saying, boy, a lot of our unconscious expectations come from our family, from our ancestors, our parents and their parents and their parents. And what I hear you saying is becoming aware of those patterns is like a rebirth. So for those who believe in transmigration of souls, partners, romantic partners, may be people that we sign up with many, many lives to work through patterns in our souls. And let me just make a little note here on the gender binary about this. This is an interesting side note. For those who believe in actual literal transmigration of souls reincarnation, gender doesn't matter a whole lot, because you might remember being born in all sorts of different kinds of bodies. You might remember being born male or female or non-binary, and having all sorts of different gender expressions and identities. So gender becomes a very different thing from that perspective. But the question is this: what am I? What are you? How do we connect? How do we relate? And what do these cycles of birth and rebirth and reawakening, how do they affect how we relate?
I don't think, Carol, that you have quite gotten how literally I take this.
I'm learning.
The first time I was born in a 7-pound body, and then I was born again in a 30-pound body, and then I was born again in a 100-odd pound body. I won't give you exact numbers here. And each time my body changes, and then it gets stronger, and then it gets more wrinkled, and it gets old. But I keep being born again and again in different kinds of bodies with different kinds of food. And the food, of course, can be romantic food sometimes, but it can be romantic food based on illusion, or it can be romantic food based upon some kind of reality in which you face it. The famous story about the Buddha, which some Buddhists take literally and some do not, the Buddha says, "This in my 683rd life, don't hold the number, because I don't remember exactly what the number, but hundreds and hundreds of lives. And this time I remember the things that happened before, and this time I am aware of what went on before." This transmigration of souls. Souls doesn't have to be a woo kind of thing. Souls can be a very physically and psychologically and generationally real kind of thing. And we meet another soul, and this is a soulmate, we think, and then we learn that the old techniques which have worked so badly so many times before, we need to figure out how to make them work better this time. And it means to listen to the real soul. With much temerity, if I were to add something to Paul's famous, as we read it, gratitude to love. Love listens. It listens to what's going on, not just what it wants to hear, but what's actually going on. And hence a soulmate is someone who, when they speak, you listen to them, perhaps for the very first time. And when you speak, they listen to you, perhaps for the very first time. As I look at all the different ages out there, those who are just beginning this endless incarnation and reincarnations you'll be going through, and others, looking at someone specifically who've been at it for quite a while, all those ways in which the soul continually changes and continually faces new but old and new guise kinds of issues and new kinds of scripts. And what you want finally is to write the script yourself instead of just listening to one that's been given to you. And when you really listen, now you have a soulmate that is a genuine opportunity, as opposed to a soulmate which just raises the old problems that you've dealt with badly before and hope not to deal with badly again. Yeah, I'm going to play the age card here. As I look at some of the young people out there, just wait, boys and girls. It's going to be coming at you again and again. And finally, hopefully, before you're as old as I am, you'll have figured some of it out.
Well, in the words of Paul that we were reading earlier, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. I hear you saying, David, that this finding true love in that sense that is patient and kind and abides, is about recognizing our own process of maturation, participating in the process of maturation, inviting another person to participate in the process of maturation and self-awareness and self-growth.
Yes.
Would that be fair to say?
And almost always it's, don't do it again the way you did it last time. I remember when I was 15 and fell in love madly for the first time, and then 17 and then 21, and a couple of them I married along the way. I want to this time be able to listen more carefully and do it in a mature fashion.
So let's make a wish. Let's have a little reflection and make a wish. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, which is a holiday that has its own whole kind of history. But think about for a minute what the assumptions or expectations you inherited are about the nature of love. What are the assumptions or models or things you learned as a child And how much do you still inhabit those patterns, the ones that serve you and the ones that no longer serve you? How much are you willing to invite your partners on the journey, whether they be family members and your siblings or your parents or your children or your romantic partners, your companions on the journey in your community? How much are you willing to invite other people who are also willing to listen and grow? How much are you willing to let them in? How much are you willing to look and say, that's an old pattern. Here we are again. Let's try something different. I wish for us all that regardless of our theologies, which David and I have just hopefully demonstrated pretty clearly, don't matter nearly so much as the application of them. No matter what our theologies, we do have this human capacity for rebirth. Whether it's in a day or a week or a relationship or a lifetime or many lifetimes, whatever the scale, the capacity for renewal is always there. We put a lot of that on Valentine's Day. Oh, if I just have the right partner. Oh, if I just have the right gift for my partner. Oh, if I just... But that capacity is within each of us, and our capacity to engage it. Isn't that interesting? That's what we call it when people agree to get married. We call it the engagement. Think about that. I invite you all to go tomorrow and be focused on engaging with yourself and with others. Any closing words, David?
Well, you had put in your notes something about I and thou.
Yes.
When you'd use the phrase, if I only found the right person this time, and if they had found the right person, Martin Buber says in I and thou that the relationship is realer. The relationship is more fundamental than the two who are related. If you emphasize the relationship and you sink yourself into the relationship and simply accept what it is that the relationship has to offer for good and ill, for happiness and struggle, but you find the relationship itself, and I think that's what Valentine's Day is about. It's about relationships, not just the two who are related, or three or four, the ones who are related, but the relationship itself and how widely this spreads, not just between two lovers, but between parent and child, between sibling and sibling, between friend and friend. When Paul talks about love, he isn't just talking about romantic love here. He is talking about all the love relationships, and relationship becomes the crucial word here. I and thou together. Wonderful old Jewish ritual when two young people, or whatever age people, are married. There's a new creation made now, and that creation is free from sin. They will, of course, add on their own, but at that moment, it is pure and fresh and new. And then we know we're going to mess it up because we're attending to, gee, if they were only different, then it would be okay. Or if I were only different, then it would be okay. But if you put the emphasis upon the relationship instead as the most real thing, then you stop paying so much attention to yourself and stop paying so much attention to the particular person you're related to, and instead to the power of relationship. And there is no more powerful word for relationship than love.
Wonderful. This is a place where this kind of dialogue is meant to help us be reborn in our own self-awareness over and over and over again. As we close out our service today, I'm going to extinguish our chalice, but I invite you to take into yourself that fire of commitment towards a loving, more graceful world, a greater love inside our own hearts, that light that is seeking more insight, seeking more truth, seeking more awareness, seeking more perspectives. the love that it represents, the light that is inside each of us in our hearts. May you go out this Valentine's week, share that with the world, but also relate well with yourself. Go in peace.
Thank you, Carol.